Almost 2 decades ago, when I was just 9 years old, the world as I knew it ended before my young imagination could even begin to fathom what that would entail. My mom had passed away too soon, and Dad and I were trying to fill the void clumsily with our own brand of grief. Life had a beat, and it was the same sad, monotonous melody we marched to until Dad changed key. Her name was Marlene. And one night, Dad sat me at the kitchen table, rewrapping his fingers around Mom's black coffee mug. "Sophia, do you mind meeting someone for me tomorrow?" "Oh yeah, her name's Marlene, and I know." "Well, she is kind of a friend," he said, looking away from me. "Why, Dad? Who is she?" Excited and a bit dismayed. My curiosity was piqued, but I also had that knot in the pit of my stomach. There was something in the way he would not look me in the eye to be anything more than a friend. Dad sighed, a weary sound. I just think it's time, pumpkin. The sooner we start to rediscover any joy in living. One day, Marlene came into our house. Her presence created a kind of atmosphere that was alien to this place. The lady was smiling, and sweet as pie, offering her hand bright with rings. "Hello, Sophia." She spoke with a sweet voice. "I have heard so much about you." I turned and shook hands with her, noticing the chill of her skin. "Ah," I said under my breath as Dad started to give her a tour. My eyes followed her as she scanned the living room, walking a few steps behind. Her smile faded, however, partially when her eyes reached the family photos, Mom primarily, and a momentary little expression of scorn made its way across her face. I saw it, even if Dad didn't. This was in August, and before I knew it, months had went by. Marlene went from being Dad's friend to Dad's wife. The true colors that eventually revealed themselves were not the stark and brash nature of a whore, but rather shades disguised by deceptions sprinkled with lies. After dinner, Dad asked me about my outgrown wardrobe. "That is until Sophia started getting big." He mentioned offhand, "We will have to get her some new school clothes." Just listen how Marlene was fast to pounce on this chance. "Oh, let me handle that. Shop online, I know what she likes and I'm going to get the best for Sophia." Her voice lathered with barely above mild excitement. A week later, Marlene unrolled the treasures from her shopping spree. I looked absolutely ridiculous, the outfits all several sizes too large on my desperate 12th grade shoulders and pooling fabric at me feet. "Look at this, darling. I bought it all on clearance and she will grow into most of them." "TISEATCLYWGHATIDLANTE," cried Marlene, holding up a tent masquerading as a dress. Her dad smiled back, proud and thankful. "Marlene, that's brilliant. So thoughtful of you." I tried to protest, but "Dad, they're too big. I'll look silly." The expression was honeyed but condescending. She had cut off Marlene. "Oh, darling, it's for the best. Kids your age grow so fast. Not to mention, we're saving cash on more essential items." My face burned with embarrassment. School the next day was just what I expected. Hey, Scarecrow. After all, what happened to the other part of the barn? The taunts echoed, and every word pierced my heart like a needle in madness. I went home that day with my big clothes swallowing me, a spirit as jagged and broken up. I used to tell Dad about the teasing, but Marlene was always one step ahead again, with her glistening lies and candy-coated deceit. "Sophia, Sophia, those people are jealous, I am positive. You are so beautiful, and keep in mind, we are making sensible decisions," she said with her hand lying on top of mine. Dad agrees. And she wasn't even on a computer. Marlene's right, pumpkin. It's all about being smart. Things just go worse after the whole clothes debate. Marlene, my stepmom, was doing the perfect job to play her part, deceiving everyone and pretending to be nice. On the outside, she was your perfect mother, but behind closed doors is where you got to see a whole different person. One evening while Dad was working double shift, Marlene offered to help me with my homework. "Sophia, can we please just do this math?" she said sweetly, a snarl in her voice. Being well aware of what happened to her proposed help, I wanted no part in this. "Jesus, I have it, Marlene," gesturing at the doll now on my person in response to attempt and keep the shakiness out of my voice. "Nonsense," she said, and dragged a chair over next to me. The moment she leaned down to review my workbook, her critiques started. "Sophia, darling, this is all wrong. Is this still unclear to you? It's simple arithmetic." What she said cut me to the bone, but my math was correct. I double-checked it, Marlene. That's exactly like the examples in the book. I attempted to defend myself, more exasperated by the minute. Marlene shook her head and tutted. "Then you must have misread the textbook. Allow me to demonstrate the proper way, and then she make it wrong." When my math teacher was reviewing the homework, I got an exhortation to better check over it in class right before everyone. I was humiliated even more to say that it wasn't my fault. I tried to talk it over with Dad that night. "Tell Dad what happened with my math homework on purpose, Marlene," I pleaded. Dad sighed, worn out from work. "Sophia, Marlene sent you help. You know, maybe you're not recognizing her efforts." That was followed by the parent-teacher conference. Marlene refused not to go with Dad. "I want to be a part of Sophia's upbringing," she announced, playing the role of perfect stepmother. And on the day of the conference, oh my goodness, Marlene was all smiles and laughs with my teachers. "Thank you so much for everything you're doing with Sophia. I know she can be a handful, but we are in it to get her," said wise Lehrer. And the worst part was how she volunteered for every school event from hell to breakfast and presented herself as such a saint, giving up her life like that with grace and gentle submission is what stepchildren learn about love. She tried making sure the other parents knew, in soft tones filled with a slight worry. "It is the least I can do for dear Sophia. She has lost her mother, after all." And they totally fell for it. Hook, line and sinker. The saint was obviously Marlene and I, the troubled child, who apparently did not deserve to be loved, nor has she done enough for me. And finally one evening I hardened my heart and decided no, tonight was not another dinner where we all acted like everything was fine. Marlene had cooked, and it was the casserole she knew that I hated but always made me eat because in her words, "It's your sin." Bath, 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 bath. 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 "Can you set the table, Sophia?" When Dad strolled to the kitchen, oblivious to what was about to transpire as he asked, "I don't see why I should." "You all shut up and let Marlene do it," I barked. "Wow, that hurts me," Marlene said with fake shock as pretended to put her hand on heart. "Oh, I just figured you wanted to make yourself useful, Sophia. I made your favorite." I snickered. I could not hold my disgust. A favorite of mine, or just one of those random things you're whipping up because it gives your hands something to do? Dad's smile faded and confusion settled on his face. "Sophia, don't talk to Marlene like that. She's trying to ruin my life, more like," I said lowly so that both she and the man could overhear me. The dinner that followed was a nightmare. Each forkful of casserole was a failure, and every word uttered by Marlene felt like an insult. I pushed food around my plate for a few minutes, then I got up suddenly, forcing the seat of the chair to scrape loudly against its wooden surface. "I'm not hungry," I pronounced and turned to leave this stifling air. Marlene's voice stopped me before I could depart. "Sophia, your behavior of late has been a concern. Perhaps it is time to enforce some structured discipline." Dad, as ever the peacemaker, let out a sigh. "Sophia, we only want what's best for you." I guess the age-old question comes up. Should I do what's best for me, or should I do what is truthfully best for her? I joked, nodding to Marlene, "'Cause it sounds like you only hear hers." It finished with a grounding, and me in my room, stuck by myself, left to ponder the evil seed that germinated inside of me. Things were like a war zone every single day with Marlene, but after my bold act of rebellion at the dinner table, not long afterwards battle was joined. All the little slip-ups, all innocent mistakes were suddenly proof that I was a rebel or an ill-natured person. Marlene had a gift of turning things around where inherently I was always to blame. Dad just acquiesced. One day, when I accidentally spilled a glass of juice in the kitchen, something was waiting to be unraveled and unwelcome guests began knocking on my door. Marlene swooped down like a hawk, peering through an almost joyfully judging face. "Look at this mess, Sophia. That is precisely what I am talking about right there. Carelessness. It's just like your mother." Marlene's voice fell as the inference permeated the room. My anger rose and I could feel color draining from my face. Bringing Mom into this was a low blow, even for Marlene. "Fuck you, shit stain. Asterisk, don't start with my mom, okay, slut. You're nothing like her." Father dashed in looking worn. He had heard the disturbance. "What's all this?" Sophia apologized to Marlene. "It was just an accident." "I will not." I shot back, my voice rising. "She is always pointing the finger at me, calling me clumsy and stupid. Just, like Mom was. But she's wrong. If you could see it, Dad's face was stone-cold stern. "Sophia, that's enough. Marlene's only trying to help. She cares about you." "Cares about me?" The thought was laughable. My voice was breaking as I turned to Dad. "How can you say that? She is still riding my ass about being the perfect wife and stepmom in front of you. But she's not. You get it, and you never listened to me." Years later, when the house was silent, and I had a moment to mull over everything, it struck me how much damage that did. And more importantly, my sense of self and confidence were both crumbling beneath Marlene's constant bashing. It was no longer in the sense of fighting back. It was about holding on to me, and who I think my mom wanted me to be. Our home life had become this sort of silent war. I was learning to sidestep Marlene's jabs, head bowed under the electric light in hopes of passing unnoticed. That is, until one run-of-the-mill Tuesday everything shifted. It was strange that Dad did not come downstairs for breakfast. He was the first up, a habit of decades to start early in his job. I made my own way over to his space, assuming he might have needed a sick day, something I never saw him do. I knew something was up the second I opened their door and heard how eerily quiet it had become. Silence that sits on you, echoing with terror. "Dad?" I could hardly speak above a whisper, frozen on the floor. He lay there so limp, too limp. As he fell, a wave of panic stormed over me, and I hurried to his side. My hand trembled as I reached for him. I pleaded, the reality hitting my stomach with a free fall. "Dad, please." Then Marlene came, screams so shrill that for a few moments I could barely see through the disbelief of my thick head. The next several hours passed in a blur. Ambulances, whispers, and pitiful glances. The ruling, a heart attack that came from out of nowhere. It all culminated in his funeral, a series of events that felt so surreal, I navigated through the days like a ghost. And of course played the grieving widow like she was born for that very role. Her tears betrayed her, and what sobs they were. They sounded empty to me, just echoes against the stone of genuine grief that was lodged in my chest. I just can't, she wailed to anybody who would lend an ear. He was my everything, and now I am the one who has to look after Sophia. How will I manage? This only exasperated my anger. Her words were a plea for sympathy. Manage, like I was just an inconvenience, a thing to be corrected. I wanted to scream and tell her to stop pretending, but I kept mute, with my sorrow weighing down so heavily on my heart. The house after the funeral felt emptier than I could have imagined. It was a silence that weighed heavily upon us, silencing the void Dad's death had already constructed in our world. One of those long, silent afternoons is when Marlene decided to show her colors once more. We sat in the lounge room surrounded by our unspoken grievances, but it was Marlene turning to me now, eyes cold and lethal. "Now, Sophia," she said in a sickeningly soft voice. "Now wait a minute, what did I say? And the way things are gonna be." Suddenly my body stiffened from her tone. "What do you mean?" Although the last word was accompanied by a smile, it did not warm in her eyes. "You see, your father is gone, so I am your guardian, which means I own you and all your fortitude." My heart sank. I had almost already forgotten the large sum of money that Dad left, too wrapped up in my mourning to see past it. "What about it?" I managed to keep my voice steady as I asked. "Oh, sweetie, don't worry. I'll take good care of it. You know, it's what your father would have wanted," she sneered with false sympathy. Her words transported and seized my heart with the weight of 1,000-ton bricks. The last thing Dad would have wanted was for Marlene to control my life and money. "You can't do that. That's my money," I claimed, starting to get mad. Marlene's smile grew wider, but there was a scary element in her face. "Actually, I can, and I will. You're just a child, Sophia. Money management, real-life experience, who teaches you all this?" "Negative. Now it's me doing the calling. And as for you..." She stopped as if she was getting closer. "We have a place and respect yours, or we will make your life miserable." I can't let her have wreaking havoc with my life and what I had been left behind unsupervised after the warrant and this stupid guardianship nonsense from Marlene, so I'm getting every penny. It was time to fight back. However, I needed an advocate, someone to help me through the scary legal and emotional world in which I had somehow got myself entrenched. I was thinking only of Aunt Margaret, who was Dad's sister. I tried to be really nice though, but she had always been good to me, and I knew my dad said how much easier difficult times were due to the fact of having people like her around. So I reached for the phone, trembling hands dialing Aunt Margaret. Her phone rang 3 times before she picked up. "Hello, Aunt Margaret, it's me, Sophia." "Sophia, how are you, honey?" It was the wrong move, and now you will never know, because your guardians wrapped me in blankets long before sunrise and took me to a small county clinic for blood work. I exhaled and steadied my nerves. "I'm not good, Aunt Margaret. I need your help. It's Marlene Shays." The words exploded out of me. All my fear, all my frustration and Marlene's mistrust spilt into the room. My Aunt Margaret was silent for a moment, but she answered in stern tone of voice. "Sophia, I suspected her grief was in your dad's eyes. Well, spill everything and we will hatch a plan." A good hour passed, me on the phone with Aunt Margaret giving her my perspective on big clothes and fakeness, passing over everyone else but myself, and most importantly expounding Marlene's plans for inheritance. The call ended with a glimmer of hope. Aunt Margaret said she would see where things lay with becoming my legal guardian and taking me away from Marlene. The following day Aunt Margaret came, and it was the raising of spirits in that house. Marlene squinted at her, detecting a change in the dynamic but unable to place it. Aunt Margaret wasted no time. "Marlene, we need to talk. It's about Sophia." Marlene crossed her arms and forced a smile. "What about her?" "It's simple. You're not fit to be her keeper. I'm going to court and collecting Sophia." The smile flickered across Marlene's face, her eyes growing wary. "You can't do that. I'm her stepmother. I have rights." Finally, I spoke up, my voice barely stronger than how I felt. "I want to live with Aunt Margaret. Marlene, I don't belong here with you." At that Marlene laughed, a bitter grating sound that resounded leeringly round the living room. "Do you even believe you're allowed to have power in this? You're just a kid. This is not your place to comment." And then Aunt Sarah stepped, the iron voice clearly bearing resolve. "Actually, it does. Sophia is 14. The law says she can choose who to live with, and now has chosen me." The last time the court ruled in Aunt Margaret's favor, I knew that this was a number 1 with a bullet for sure. It is day 1 of my life post-court. So I quickly moved in with her, leaving the likes of Marlene and all her manipulation problems behind. She didn't just stand in for my guardian, she was a mom. Not long after, it was official, and she adopted me, which just further solidified what we already had in our hearts. One night, Aunt Margaret and me sat on the porch watching a pretty orange-pink sky sunset. We were talking about grades, future bullcrap stuff when she gave me a look and asked this one question. "Sophia, you know you've got a whole world of possibilities ahead of you, right?" she said, taking a sip of her tea. I grimaced, the world of these last few years casting long shadows up ahead. I guess I just cannot figure out where to begin. Aunt Margaret lowered her tea, staring fully at Meatling. "Start with what you love. However, if you don't know at the moment, do not fret about it now, because remember it's your whole life to get there. But for now, it's a time of discovery, trying things out." I was fired up by her words, the dormant ambition that Marlene had almost managed to snuff out igniting. I did something I felt a little embarrassed to do. I confessed that yes, I was always into numbers and stuff like math or puzzles. Aunt Margaret's face lit up. "That's fantastic, Sophia. You know, XIZ, egg, accounting, engineering and economics. The sky's the limit." "Economics," I echoed, the word having a poetic ring to it. I liked the sound of that. After that, Aunt Margaret became my greatest supporter. She got me registered for pre-business classes in preparation to pursue an undergrad degree, and took on my dream with a fervor that was both wonderful, yet sometimes intimidating. Aunt Margaret made a banner, and we had cake. I got my scholarship acceptance into college in economics that day. Her eyes misting with proud tears, she said, "Future economist you are looking at." I laughed, hugging her tight. "Not without you, Aunt Margaret. You saved me, in so many ways." She squeezed me, probably even tighter. "We saved each other, kiddo. Remember that. We're a team." And she was right. We flipped the page together and entered into a promising future. With Aunt Margaret, it was not just a new dawn in my life. Rather, it seemed like I had started living for the first time. It had been nearly a decade since she and Marlene shared the same roof. I had managed to build a life for myself, working as an economist in one of the best private builders, and finally dared mortgage my small apartment. A little corner of the city that I told everyone was all mine. I could enjoy the goodness and uncomplicated nature of it all. Well, that was before the past came back with a vengeance one day. It was a typical Thursday afternoon when I received the phone call. Buried in reports and forecasts at my desk, I hardly even noticed when a message on my phone saying that new push came from the number of someone completely unfamiliar to me. "Is this Sophia Harrison?" The voice on the other end was icy and businesslike. "Yes, speaking. Who's this?" "This is City General Hospital. Your mom is at our hospital. She's asking for your help." A jolt of confusion hit me. There is a mistake, I think. My mom died ages ago. Then, after a pause, the caller added, "Excuse me, you are not Mrs. Harrison's mother. It's your stepmother, Marlene." Marlene just mentioning the name after all these years was a slap in the face. I was equal parts surprised, skeptical, and intrigued. "What's wrong with her?" "You see, she is hospitalized for a serious stand. She's asking to see you." I took a deep breath and felt myself say yes to the visit. "Okay, I will stop by later, end of work day." When I saw her for the first time, she was in a social ward, wraith-like compared to the robust woman I had known. All the gloss and veneer that she always showed to the world had vanished. This was a shadow of my stepmother. When she noticed me, her gaze met mine, and something flashed across her look. Maybe relief. "Sophia," she murmured, her voice as thin as the bodice of an old wedding dress. "You actually came." I pulled up a chair next to the bed, trying hard not to wear my emotions on my sleeve. "Hospital called, said you wanted to see me." She released a breath that sounded like she was giving up. "I ruined it all. The money from your father is over. So here I am, with nothing. Help, treatment and rehab reposited in you, my dear Sophia." In that cold, sterile light of the hospital room, memories flooded back to me. It all came flooding back, all those years under Marlene's roof, the comments she made that I pretended not to hear, but which cut me deep anyway. Her maneuvering for control over my kids and even our marriage, and always making sure every belly laugh from James managed to squeeze tight around his throat before it escaped. Now she was calling on me for help, but would the same have been true were our roles reversed? It was obvious from the contempt that burned in her eyes whenever she would so much as glance my way. The words fell from my lips as the water spilled into each line of me. "I remember everything, Marlene," I said with a clear voice that matched the internal stability I'd cultivated through all those years. "Every time I needed you, but you chose not to. Why should I help you now?" The illusion of vulnerability that Marlene had been meticulously constructing crumbled in an instant when she scowled her response. She spat out, "You simple, ungrateful little brat. Did I not give you a home when my heart didn't have to? You owe me. I'm your mother by law. Unless you help me, I will sue your ass off. I'll be leaving with every single dime of yours." The laughter grew inside of me and I could not contain it, ringing through the sterile walls. It was too bizarre a threat. Her desperation had gone a step beyond sanity. "Sue me? For what? You remember, Aunt Margaret adopted me. You're dead to me, the Godfather fashion. A stranger." Immediately, the realization struck Marlene with such ferocity that she appeared as if assaulted by a force of nature, her brows knitting and mouth gaping in agitation. She went off in a sort of rant that was part threat and remonstrance, but they no longer had any power over me. They had been the final weak flailings of a woman who could no longer fight. And there, with a long hard gaze at her like the first time I had ever looked at them, all that could be seen was someone very sad and feeble presenting themselves as if they held an unchallengeable power. "Marlene, and not your daughter." "True. By blood, no, and law certainly not. But you took care of that years ago." I turned on my heel and left the room, her yells of anger and desolation lessening with every stride. It felt as though she was the burden to my existence of carrying her legacy, and with that, all her problems returning. But after I took this decision, everything seemed a lot more far than present. Out of doors, the sunlight was brighter and the air more refreshing. I inhaled deeply and enjoyed it, the release, letting go. Marlene was my past, defined by time and circumstance, but a book finally closed in my life forever with the pen firmly once again rested between fingers of mine that choose to write their story one step at a time on terms I decree.
Hello there, I'm Alice, a 32-year-old woman currently 9 months pregnant. Today, my husband and I are driving to his family's home, a mere 30-minute drive from our apartment. It's a short trip, so we often visit 2 or 3 times a month. This time, we're especially excited because my mother-in-law is baking her famous apple pie. My mother-in-law is a sweet lady. After losing her husband last year, she was really down and didn't know what to do. But she's recovered now and is eagerly waiting for the birth of her grandchild. However, not everyone is thrilled about our baby. My sister-in-law, Brianna, is one of them. According to my mother-in-law, Brianna married 6 years before us, but hasn't been able to conceive. She even started fertility treatments 2 years ago, but still no baby. With all the pressure, she's become quite irritable lately. My mother-in-law advised us to avoid Brianna as much as possible, so we usually visit when she's not around. But today, to our surprise, Brianna showed up unexpectedly. "Well, long time no see, Alice. You've put on some weight, haven't you? You're not just lazing around at home because you're pregnant, right? You look like a seal, all round and ready to roll down a hill," she said sharply. I was dumbfounded by her immediate and harsh remark. "Hey sis, how can you say something like that right off the bat? She's 9 months pregnant. Of course her belly's going to be big. You're going to make enemies with pregnant women all over the world talking like that." My husband quickly jumped to my defense, leaving me speechless. "Oh please, I'm just thinking about Alice. It's tough if a pregnant woman gets too heavy, you know. I just want Alice to be aware of her responsibilities as a mother," Brianna claimed, pretending to be concerned. I knew arguing back would only cause more problems. Thank you, sister-in-law. Yes, you're right. I should be more careful. I chose non-confrontational words, but she huffed and said, just because you're pregnant doesn't mean you can be lazy. Start cleaning this house right now. You're lacking exercise, right? You can at least do that much. She handed me a broom and dustpan, demanding I clean. However, after being scolded by my mother-in-law and my husband for harassing me, Brianna sulked and secluded herself in an upstairs room. I'm sorry, Alice. She just showed up all of a sudden. I told her to leave. My mother-in-law apologized with a regretful look on her face. It's fine, mother-in-law. I'm not bothered. I reassured her. I'm sorry, Alice. That's just how my sister is, my husband added. Despite the tension, we spent a pleasant time together, enjoying the apple pie and sipping tea. We called out to Brianna, but there was no response. Although we were worried, she never came down in the end. However, I had no idea that a shocking incident would occur just a few days later. I went to my in-laws' house alone to speak with my mother-in-law. As I wondered why the front door was unlocked, I discovered Brianna in the living room. Sister-in-law, what brings you here? I heard from mother-in-law that you had to work today, I said, surprised. I wasn't in the mood, so I took the day off. I was surprised to see you here. You disrupted my cleaning last time. Now please get back to work, she said, thrusting the broom and dustpan back at me. To avoid any trouble, I decided to clean as much as I could. But that day, I was feeling discomfort from early morning, and during the cleaning, I began to feel pain in my stomach. Just as I thought of taking a short break, Brianna kicked my stomach, causing my water to break. The pain escalated, and I fell to the floor. Ah, it hurts. Somebody, please help. I cried out, taking my mobile phone from my pocket and quickly dialing my mother-in-law. The baby is in trouble, I managed to say before losing consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm and my body wrapped in an electric blanket. Where am I? What about my baby? I tried to sit up, but the pain in my abdomen stopped me. My stomach, which was supposed to be large, had shrunk, and I was shocked. I pressed the nurse call button, and when the nurse arrived, I asked what had happened. Apparently, my water had broken, and I had to give birth via emergency cesarean. The baby was small and in an incubator but was in good health. My mother-in-law and husband, who had rushed to the hospital, were informed by the doctor. Their faces were red with anger. I decided to visit the baby once I felt better and tried to sleep as much as possible to recover quickly. However, the next day, an unbelievable pair showed up in my hospital room. My sister-in-law, who had kicked me, and her husband. They entered without knocking, their impudence making me frown. When they suggested, "We'll pay you, let's settle this," I felt a chill run down my spine. When I refused, they lashed out at me with every offensive word they could think of, directed at my tired face, still recovering from the cesarean operation. Thinking about how my daughter had to go through such an ordeal because of these people, something inside me snapped. A settlement? Are you kidding me? You must be joking. I'll ruin your life, I declared, my voice shaking with anger. Enraged by my words, they continued shouting. What are you saying? We're offering a solution with money. Aren't you thankful, Alice? Didn't your parents teach you to obey your elders? We're telling you to settle, so just agree quietly, my brother-in-law added, joining in the argument. Forgetting it was a hospital room, our voices escalated until the door suddenly swung open. I've heard everything. I'm sorry, but I have absolutely no intention of settling. My husband, tall and imposing, stood at the door, his deep voice resonating through the room. The two who had been so confident moments before were now taken aback. Ah, long time no see, Finn. It's a coincidence to meet you here, my brother-in-law stammered, his face tense. It truly is a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here, nor did I expect to hear such words from you. I would appreciate an explanation. We were all in the room when you said it, so there's no room for any excuses. My husband responded, his fury barely contained. Don't be so angry, Finn. It's not like we had ill intentions. We just feel bad for what we did to Alice. That's why we're offering money, hoping to settle this out of court, my sister-in-law explained, her voice trembling. But my husband's fury didn't subside. The one who decides whether this will be a settlement or not is Alice, not you. Besides, do you think this is a situation that can be solved with money? Alice had an emergency C-section, and the baby is in an incubator. You endangered both their lives. Do you even understand that? My husband exploded, his emotions getting the best of him. I also couldn't forgive them just because they were throwing money at us. I agree with my husband. No amount of money can make this right. You will face the consequences of your actions, I said firmly. It seemed like my sister-in-law assumed that throwing money at us would make us forgive them, but this situation was far more serious. Thankfully, both my daughter and I were fine, though she was in an incubator. Had there been any mistake, the outcome could have been much worse. My sister-in-law seemed entirely oblivious to this reality, and I suspected my brother-in-law felt the same. At my words, my sister-in-law flared up and raised her voice. What do you mean? This is all because of her. She knew I couldn't get pregnant, and yet kept rubbing her belly in front of me. Was that a jab at me? She shouted, her face red with fury. I was furious. That's why you did what you did. To make sure I never do anything like that again. How ridiculous. I hadn't met you often since I got pregnant, and every time you saw me, you would go into your room and not come out. So how did you see me rubbing my belly? I retorted, incredulous at her excuse. No matter what she said, it wouldn't erase what she had done. I understand that you're struggling, but that doesn't justify doing something like this to Alice. No matter the reason, endangering a life is never acceptable, my husband explained, stating the obvious. But they both looked elsewhere, not even trying to listen to us. It seemed like they wanted to get this over with as soon as possible. Seeing the two of them show no remorse, I felt my condition worsen. Are we done here? I just had surgery and I'm not feeling well. If you continue to cause a ruckus, I'll call the police, I warned. Arguing wasn't going to resolve anything, and dealing with them was too much for me while I was still recovering. After my husband kicked them out, I sighed heavily. Fortunately, my husband had recorded their conversation, giving us solid evidence. My mother-in-law was furious about what her daughter had done, endangering my life and her grandchild's. We decided to press charges against my sister-in-law. We filed a complaint with the police, and my sister-in-law was taken to the station. Through a lawyer, we began negotiations, but my sister-in-law insisted. I've done nothing wrong. This woman has been flaunting her pregnancy in front of me, causing me emotional distress while I struggle with infertility. She's not innocent either, so she should be open to a settlement. At first, she was eager to pay any amount, but then she began claiming her innocence, suggesting we both were at fault. She had been intimidated by my husband at the hospital, but now, determined to avoid paying, she put up a stubborn fight. However, she had no idea that our conversation in the hospital room had been recorded. When the evidence was presented, both their faces turned ashen. Even with such clear evidence, you still claim you're innocent? I'm afraid that won't fly, my husband said firmly. After enduring their insults and refusing to agree to a settlement, my sister-in-law, in anger, flung a cup of cold coffee at us. Thankfully, it was cold, so we weren't burned. Their outrageous behavior and language resulted in additional charges, forcing them to increase the compensation amounts. Trying to calm his infuriated wife, my brother-in-law left the office with her. Given the assault charges and their behavior, the amount we demanded became substantial. When we told my mother-in-law what had happened, she looked deeply remorseful. I'm so sorry for what my daughter has done. There's no need for you to agree to a settlement. I'll make sure she faces the consequences, she apologized tearfully. I couldn't help but feel incredibly sorry for her. In the end, my sister-in-law was ordered to pay hefty compensation. Shocked by the amount, she called me repeatedly, insisting we reduce the amount because we were both at fault. I couldn't comprehend how she could argue this after all she had done. No matter how many times you call, the answer remains the same. We have no intention of reducing the amount or agreeing to a settlement. Honestly, your calls are becoming a nuisance. Please stop, I snapped at her. This caused her to lose her temper, and unbelievably, she barged into my apartment. Hey, you're there, right? I know you're in there. Get out here now, coward, she shouted, pounding on the door. I was resting on the sofa, still in pain from my surgery. What on earth are you doing? Is everything okay with you? Your shouting is disturbing everyone else. Please stop, I yelled back, but she continued to bang on the door. It was past 8 p.m., and there were elderly people and families with babies in the apartment. Of course, my husband was still at work and hadn't returned home. Since I got discharged from the hospital, I had been visiting my daughter every day, feeling unwell and now dealing with my sister-in-law's unannounced visit. I was at my wit's end. No matter how many times you come here, my mind won't change. Please don't come here anymore, I said, fighting back despite feeling unwell and pale. But my sister-in-law was desperate for a settlement, ignoring my concerns. I didn't do this because I wanted to, you know. It's because of your intrusions that things have come to this. It's presumptuous of you to get pregnant before me. Shouldn't you have been more considerate and waited to get pregnant after us? She ranted. It seemed she saw pregnancy as some sort of competition. I don't think pregnancy is a competition or that it's more honorable to get pregnant first. But for my sister-in-law, who has struggled with infertility for many years, it seemed like she viewed pregnancy that way. Everyone has different values, I thought, exhausted by the ordeal. But that's no excuse to hurt others. I understand you're upset about not being able to have children, but that's no reason to hurt anyone. I cannot forgive you for putting my daughter in danger. For that, you will be held responsible. Above everything else, the fact that she had endangered my daughter was unforgivable. Just then, the sound of sirens could be heard outside. It seemed someone in the apartment had reported the disturbance. Well, I suppose if you're banging on someone's door and yelling at this hour, it's inevitable that the police would be called. What do you mean the police are here? Open the door. You have to hide me, my sister-in-law pleaded. Despite her pleas, I had no intention of hiding her. The police arrived at the apartment and began questioning her. I explained the situation from my perspective. Just at that moment, my husband returned home, and I filled him in on what had happened. Considering everything that had transpired, my husband told the police everything, and they took my sister-in-law away. That night, my brother-in-law called to tell me he was divorcing my sister-in-law and asked me not to involve him in the issue, a rather self-serving request. Apparently, one of my husband's colleagues had been at the hospital where I was admitted and overheard my brother-in-law's conversation. When he got to work, gossip spread among the female employees, and my brother-in-law was looked down upon. The situation worsened, and somehow the story reached the HR department. Realizing he couldn't talk his way out of it, he confessed everything. He was then told that someone like him couldn't stay at the company and was being transferred to a regional office. I can't deal with her issues anymore. If any more problems arise, I'll be fired. So please leave me out of it, he said before hanging up. I haven't heard from him since. Afterward, we received substantial compensation from my sister-in-law. To ensure she would never come near us again, we changed our phone numbers and moved away. Even if she ran out of money and needed help, she wouldn't know where to find us. A few months later, my daughter was discharged from the hospital. She didn't have any lingering effects and was growing up healthy. Rumor has it that my sister-in-law was in substantial debt. At first, she moved from friend to friend, but she never contributed to living expenses and stayed too long, so they kicked her out. Now, with no place to live and no money, she is working part-time to pay off her debt. Hello everyone, I'm Jasmine, and this is my story. I want to share an experience involving my soon-to-be ex-husband and my mother-in-law. The betrayal and lies still haunt me, and I need to get this off my chest. I've seen many posts about people dealing with horrible mothers-in-law and their equally terrible sons. I faced a similar situation. When I married my husband, Tom, I had no idea he was a mama's boy. His mother, Vera, had been extremely close to him since childhood. He was raised to believe that his mother always came first. I didn't mind that Tom was close to his mother, but Vera's hold over him suffocated me. After we got married, Tom often said, "Even though you're my wife, my mom is still a priority. I hope you understand that, Jasmine. I don't want you to think otherwise." I replied, "As long as you respect and value me as well. I have no problem with your closeness to Vera. You are her son, after all. Thank you for understanding, Jasmine. I hope we won't have problems with this in the future." Tom wasn't joking when he said Vera was his priority. As the years went by, it became clear that Vera held an even higher position than me. Tom had a good job but spent half his income on her. Vera refused to work and insisted on living off her son's money. I had to put more money into our household accounts to make ends meet. When I talked to Tom about this, he responded angrily, "How dare you bring this up, Jasmine? I already told you my mom is a priority. Why are you creating trouble about this? Do you want my mom to starve?" "I never said that, Tom. You're just giving her more money than necessary. I've tolerated it for years, but you need to stop. That will never happen. I have a responsibility towards her, and I will send her whatever money I please. Stay out of this." I knew I was fighting a losing battle. We had many fights about Vera, and it didn't help that Vera hated me and insulted me at every opportunity. Tom was the only one invited to her house for Christmas. I was never allowed. Tom had nothing to say about this and always left me alone to celebrate with Vera. Things didn't improve even after we had a child. Our son, Ethan, was also boycotted from Vera's house because he was my child. He craved his grandmother's love when he was young, but Vera only had insults for him. Tom never protested and told us to deal with it. Eventually, Ethan and I both gave up trying to please Vera. I didn't want Ethan to grow up with divorced parents, so I stayed. However, I later realized my mistake. One day, when Ethan was about 12 years old, Tom sat me down and said, "I've quit my job, Jasmine. Today was my last day. I've been thinking about leaving for a while, and I think it's time." "What? Why didn't you discuss this with me? Do you have any jobs lined up?" "No, I won't be returning to work anytime soon. I feel burned out and need some rest. You earn enough to support us, so that won't be an issue. By the way, I hope you know that Mum will be moving in with us. You need to take care of her as well." Hello everyone, I'm Jasmine, and this is my story. I want to share an experience involving my soon-to-be ex-husband and my mother-in-law. The betrayal and lies still haunt me, and I need to get this off my chest. I've seen many posts about people dealing with horrible mothers-in-law and their equally terrible sons. I faced something similar. When I married my husband Tom, I had no idea he was a big mama's boy. His mother, Vera, had been extremely close to him since childhood. He was raised to believe that his mother always came first. I didn't mind that Tom was close to his mother, but Vera's hold over him suffocated me. After we got married, Tom often said, "Even though you're my wife, my mom is still a priority. I hope you understand that, Jasmine. I don't want you to think otherwise." I replied, "As long as you respect and value me as well. I have no problem with your closeness to Vera. You are her son, after all. Thank you for understanding, Jasmine. I hope we won't have problems with this in the future." Tom wasn't joking when he said Vera was his priority. As the years went by, it became clear that Vera held an even higher position than me. Tom had a good job but spent half his income on her. Vera refused to work and insisted on living off her son's money. I had to put more money into our household accounts to make ends meet. When I talked to Tom about this, he responded angrily, "How dare you bring this up, Jasmine? I already told you my mom is a priority. Why are you creating trouble about this? Do you want my mom to starve?" "I never said that, Tom. You're just giving her more money than necessary. I've tolerated it for years, but you need to stop." That will never happen. I have a responsibility towards her, and I will send her whatever money I please. Stay out of this. I knew I was fighting a losing battle. We had many fights about Vera, and it didn't help that Vera hated me and insulted me at every opportunity. Tom was the only one invited to her house for Christmas. I was never allowed. Tom had nothing to say about this and always left me alone to celebrate with Vera. Things didn't improve even after we had a child. Our son, Ethan, was also boycotted from Vera's house because he was my child. He craved his grandmother's love when he was young, but Vera only had insults for him. Tom never protested and told us to deal with it. Eventually, Ethan and I both gave up trying to please Vera. I didn't want Ethan to grow up with divorced parents, so I stayed. However, I later realized my mistake. One day, when Ethan was about 12 years old, Tom sat me down and said, "I've quit my job, Jasmine. Today was my last day. I've been thinking about leaving for a while, and I think it's time." What? Why didn't you discuss this with me? Do you have any jobs lined up? No, I won't be returning to work anytime soon. I feel burnt out and need some rest. You earn enough to support us, so that won't be an issue. By the way, I hope you know that Mum will be moving in with us. You need to take care of her as well. I have to take care of Mum all day. I don't have time for your chores. Those are your responsibilities, not mine. Make Ethan work with you. I couldn't believe the audacity of Tom. Ethan was already helping me with all the chores despite having his schoolwork. We were both exhausted from serving Tom and Vera, yet Tom never helped out. Vera complained all day long and refused to do even basic tasks she was perfectly capable of doing. I was tired of working for them. My bank account was empty, and I had very little savings left. Still, I held myself together because I felt sorry for Vera and Tom. Well, it turns out I was being played for a fool. One day, Ethan approached me when Tom and Vera were not around. He said there was something he needed to talk about. "Mom, why does Grandma still use a wheelchair? She isn't sick anymore. Why does she need it even now?" "Your grandma is still paralyzed, Ethan. This means she cannot move without the wheelchair. Unfortunately, she hasn't gotten any better. But I see Grandma walking every morning. I thought she had recovered. Why are you saying she can't walk?" "What do you mean, Ethan?" "Vera is paralyzed from the waist down. She can't walk, son. You must have mixed it up." "No, Mom, it was her. When I asked her how she can walk, she just shushed me and ignored me. She even told me not to tell you." I was immediately alarmed. I had a nagging suspicion that something wasn't right, but without any proof, confronting Vera was out of the question. Now, my son had given me some grave news. I was starting to get very angry, but I needed more information and proof. So I said, "Do you have any proof by any chance?" "I need more proof, Ethan." "Yes, I do, Mom. I took a video with my phone. Do you want to see it?" "Show me the video, Ethan. I need to see it right now." Ethan was right. His video did catch Vera walking in the hallways. I was shocked and couldn't believe my eyes. What was even more shocking was that Tom saw her walking and didn't seem surprised. In fact, he even walked up to her, and they laughed about something in the hallway. I was absolutely furious. They have been fooling me for 6 months. I immediately saved the footage on my phone and waited to confront them. The next day, when I returned from work, I saw that Tom and Vera were casually talking in the living room. I was enraged but kept my cool. It was time to confront them. I sat down beside them and said, "There is something I need to talk to you both about." "What is it, Jasmine?" "Tell us now," Tom said. "Why did you two lie to me about Vera's condition? I know she's not paralyzed and can walk just fine. So tell me, why did you do this?" "What are you talking about, Jasmine? This is ridiculous. You know Mum is paralyzed. Are you accusing her of faking it?" Tom replied. "How dare you accuse me of faking it? You're such a witch, Jasmine. I was right about you all along. You are a heartless woman," Vera added. "Don't lie to me, you two. I have ample proof that Vera can walk. I've seen it with my own eyes, And I also know you know about this, Tom. This is ridiculous, Jasmine. How can you accuse us like this? I didn't expect this from you. Stop being such a cruel person and making up lies about us, Tom said. Well, I'm not making things up, Tom. As I said, I have proof. Since you won't accept it, I'll show you. Here, watch this. I took out my phone and showed them the footage. They both turned pale, their eyes bulging out of their sockets in shock and fear. When the video ended, I calmly put down my phone and said, "Now that I've shown you the proof, tell me why you have been lying to me. I want an answer." Well, Mum was really paralyzed, Jasmine. She only recovered recently. We've been keeping it a secret. We actually wanted to surprise you, Tom stammered. Yes, it's true. I needed time to feel like I could walk normally. We wanted to wait and tell you the news when we were sure. Vera added hastily. Nice story you've got there, guys. However, I don't believe you one bit. If you want to prove yourselves, I need to see your doctor's certificates. Only then will I accept your words. Tom and Vera looked visibly anxious and started to mutter nonsense about not having a note at the moment. When it became apparent that they had no proof of Vera's disability, I said, "That's it. Now I know everything I needed to know. Since you two can't give me proof, I won't be taking care of you. I want you both out of the house next month. And Tom, I am filing for divorce." Jasmine, you're overreacting. You don't have to be so drastic in your decisions. We only lied to you because Mum had nowhere to go, Tom pleaded. Yes, this is all your fault. You were financially abusing my son by not letting him take me in. We had no other choice than to cook up this story. If you had been a little less selfish, we wouldn't have lied to you. Vera insisted. Don't you dare put this on me. Your worthless son wanted to be a parasite. I accepted because he is my husband and I loved him. Then he expected me to take you in as well. You are not entitled to my money. You had no right to exploit me like this. Vera and Tom turned on me, calling me names and insisting that it was all my fault and they didn't deserve to be kicked out. Tom also said that he was entitled to my money, and so was his mother. All their talk made my blood boil. By the time they were done, I had already made my decision. Enough is enough. I've heard everything I needed to hear. I thought I would kick Vera out and file for separation from you, Tom. But now I'm going for a divorce. You have no right to be my husband. I won't stay with you any longer, and don't even think about taking Ethan. He will stay with me. You can't divorce me, Jasmine. If you leave me, you will have to give me alimony. I will also get half of your savings. I'll keep Ethan and take child support from you. That will teach you a lesson. You have some wild imagination, Tom. First of all, I have already depleted most of my savings on your mother, so you won't have much to claim anyway. Secondly, the judge won't grant you alimony since you quit your job without consulting me. I'll just say that I recorded our entire conversation, so the judge will know you want Ethan's custody only for child support. No, that can't happen. I'll make sure I bleed you dry. Mom and I didn't go through so much drama for nothing. I will take your money. Just you wait, Tom shouted. Tom and Vera kept blowing up at me and threatening me with things. They were so foolish that they forgot the part where I said I had recorded everything. From all the stories I heard, I knew that recording conversations could be crucial in court cases, so I made sure to document everything. After some time, I left them and went to my room. The next day, Tom and Vera tried to act as if nothing had happened. They even started being overly sweet, with Tom attempting to hug me in the morning. I ignored them and went about my day. I met with 2 lawyers to discuss divorce and eviction, and after finalizing everything, I went home. For some odd reason, Vera still used the wheelchair in front of me, and Tom continued the charade, hoping I would be fooled again. I sent Ethan to my sister's house to ensure his safety, as I was concerned that Tom might try to intimidate him. I stayed back because the house was mine, and I didn't want them to ruin it. A week later, I served Tom and Vera with eviction papers. I'd also served Tom divorce papers since there was no way I was staying with them. When they saw the notices, they completely freaked out. Jasmine, how can you do this to us? I don't deserve this treatment from you. This has to be a joke. I can't believe you would kick out a disabled woman. My son only wanted to take care of me. You are punishing him for nothing, Vera cried. I think we've already established that you are not disabled, Vera. There is no point in keeping up this charade. Even if I'm not disabled, I am old. You should not kick out an old person. God is watching. Well, God also saw how the two of you manipulated me and bled me dry. Now it's time for me to take my revenge. As for Tom, he has been a poor excuse for a husband and father. I stayed with him for Ethan's sake, but not anymore. Tom and Vera tried several times to change my mind, but I never wavered. I invited my sister over with Ethan so that he could be at home. Tom and Vera became desperate, seeking my forgiveness. I knew that Tom's poor financial decisions had left him with no savings, so hiring a lawyer and fighting me in court would be impossible. Vera didn't work and had no money of her own, so they were both stuck in a deep pit of financial crisis. They feasted on my income, forgetting that I don't take manipulation lightly. Ethan, though a teen, was smart enough to figure out what was going on. He started keeping his distance from Tom and Vera. Their constant shouting didn't help either. They berated him, saying, "You little crap. This is all your fault. I told you to keep your mouth shut. Does it feel good to have your dad kicked out, Ethan? Is this making you happy? Dad and Grandma will be out on the streets while you stay comfortable with your mom. How does that make you feel?" "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't want to keep Mom in the dark, so I told her everything. I didn't know she would leave you." "Shut up, Ethan. You are nothing but a useless child. I wish I never had you. If I didn't have you, I would remain married and stay in this house. You are responsible for our condition. Stop this right now." You have some audacity to scold and berate Ethan when he did the right thing. How can you speak to your child like that? I was fuming at Tom and Vera's behavior towards Ethan. It broke my heart to see him so scared. I threatened to call the cops if they continued to abuse him, which shut them up quickly. Later, these incidents actually helped me gain full custody of Ethan. Once the month ended, I promptly kicked Tom and Vera out. They threw tantrums until I called the police, who escorted them out of my house. Finally, Ethan and I were able to breathe in our own home. In the weeks that followed, my lawyers tried to convince Tom to sign the divorce papers. I even offered him some money if he agreed. Since he was nearly homeless and had no money, he begrudgingly agreed. I did lose some money, but I see that as a win. The custody agreements were smooth. I got full custody because Tom was in no position to house Ethan. Even if he got a job and demanded split custody, I knew Ethan would speak against him. He was still very shaken and is seeing a therapist. I attend the sessions with him so he doesn't feel alone. My sister is also living with us to help out. We are being cautious in case Tom and Vera try anything. From what I've heard, Tom and Vera had nasty fights after I kicked them out. Tom came crying at my door 2 weeks after being evicted, which is when I convinced him to sign the divorce papers. Apparently, Vera turned on Tom and demanded he get a job to support her. When Tom refused, she threw the worst tantrums ever. According to Tom, this made him realize what an idiot he had been. I didn't feel anything for him. I simply offered the money and asked for his signature. By then, Tom knew there was no coming back. I have no idea where Vera is now, but we are being careful. Meanwhile, Ethan and I are trying to move past this fiasco and start fresh. A few days later, after completing all the formalities, I took my luggage and left my parents-in-law's house. I told my mother-in-law that I was leaving today. I bowed to her as a gesture of respect. In response, my mother-in-law glared at me. "You've been a lousy wife and a lousy mother from beginning to end," she said. "You're the worst mother for leaving your kids." She continued to mock me, and my daughter and son laughed at her remarks. My name is Maria, a 42-year-old housewife. I live with my husband Ken, my son Josh, and my daughter Amy. Our children have grown up well, and my husband works hard, so we live peacefully without any particular problems. However, things have changed recently. My father-in-law passed away due to illness, and my mother-in-law moved in with us. My husband, being her only son, felt sorry for her being alone and brought her to our house without consulting us. I had always thought that my husband was too much of a mommy's boy, but I didn't think he would decide for her to move in with us by himself. He told us that he had already sold his parents-in-law's house. "Are you asking me to abandon my mother who has nowhere to go?" he said to me with such an attitude, and I had to give in. After that, honestly, it was hell. My mother-in-law had not liked me for a long time, so she would pick on me at every opportunity. "Maria, what is this seasoning?" she'd ask. "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be careful," I'd reply. "And I don't like greasy food." "Well, we have children who are growing up fast, and my husband likes fried food too. Then please make a separate meal for me. I hope you don't want me to eat unhealthy food so I die early." "No, it's not like that, but it would cost more money and be a bit of a hassle." That's where your skills come in. Ken earns enough money, so why don't you manage the finances and the hassle? You are so spoiled. When I was young, I took care of the house chores by myself. No matter how hard it was, my mother-in-law would say, "What a pity that my grandchildren have to live in a house run by such a lazy mother. I feel sorry for them." I thought to myself, if you have so much to say, why don't you do it? That I held back, because if I tried to talk back even a little, my husband would get mad at me 100 times over. When I first moved in with my mother-in-law, she was so overbearing that I objected to her constant criticism by saying, "If you're so opinionated, why don't you do it yourself?" My mother-in-law then complained to my husband, and he got angry, saying, "How dare you talk to her like that when I'm the one supporting you?" I thought about getting a divorce, but as a housewife, I wouldn't be able to take care of the children. They are my treasures, and I don't want them taken away from me, so I decided to endure the abuse without objection. However, instead of just putting up with it, I started to prepare for a divorce little by little. I applied for jobs at various companies under the watchful eye of my mother-in-law, who was home all day long. Only one company offered me a part-time position. Thanks to my previous experience as a bank clerk, I was able to get a clerical job at a bank. It was my first corporate job in a long time, and it was a lot of fun. Of course, there was a lot of responsibility and stress that came with it. Still, it was more peaceful than seeing my mother-in-law at home all the time. But my mother-in-law didn't like the fact that I was working. Why work when Ken earns enough salary? Maybe she's out scavenging for men? She would insinuate, her words dripping with malice. What kind of thought process is that? A total idiot. It's not that my husband doesn't make a lot of money, but since his mother started living with us, our expenses have increased. We're not in a situation where we can afford everything. However, my mother-in-law insisted that I give her an allowance for my earnings so that I wouldn't spend it on men. When I refused and said it was not possible, she complained to my husband again. That night, when my husband came home from work, he yelled at me as he had done before. "Are you having an affair?" he demanded. "Huh. I'm not," I replied, shocked. "That's what my mother said. She said you're using your part-time salary to pay for men." "I'm not doing that." "Why do you believe your mother's lies?" "Shut up. Then give her an allowance to prove you're innocent." "Oh no," I muttered, feeling defeated. Then my mother-in-law came in with a smirk on her face. "500 a month," she demanded. "That much?" I exclaimed. "That's what my mother says, so give it to her," my husband ordered. In the end, I was defeated by the momentum of the two of them. I had to give most of the money I earned from my part-time job to my mother-in-law as an allowance. To make matters worse, my mother-in-law told the children, "Your mother is a horrible adulterer," with a smirk on her face. Even junior high school kids know what that means, and to tell them a lie like that is just awful. It was not fair at all, and it was ruining me completely. Then something happened to make the situation worse. I found out that my husband was having an affair. Despite suspecting me of infidelity, he was the one cheating. This pushed me over the edge. They say that when you reach your limits, you just blow it all out of the water. I didn't want to spend even 1 second with these jerks, so I immediately went to get the divorce papers. I don't want to stay in this house after you had an affair, I said as I confronted my husband with the divorce papers. He laughed at me and said, "Well, I don't want an old woman like you in my house." I'm sure he intended to be with his adulterous partner after the divorce. He agreed to pay alimony and share the property without any objection. When the children were asked what they wanted to do, they both said they were going to stay in the house. My mother-in-law grinned at me and said, "I knew you liked your father better than this woman." A few days later, after completing all the formalities, I took my luggage and left my parents-in-law's house. In the living room, I informed my mother-in-law that I would be leaving today and bowed to her as a gesture of respect. She grinned at me again and sarcastically remarked, "You've been a lousy wife and a lousy mother from the beginning to the end." Then she added, "You're such a terrible mother to leave your children. I don't know how much you can make fun of me." My daughter and son laughed at my mother-in-law's comments, and she seized the opportunity to mock me further. "Look, even the children are laughing at you. What a pathetic mother." Well, it was actually the children themselves who said they would stay here, so I'm not leaving them, I retorted. "Oh, I see. So you're a sad woman who was abandoned by her children," she replied coldly. "Well, you can say what you want, but don't forget that you're responsible for everything at home from now on." "Don't worry about that. Unlike you, I'm good in everything," I shot back. "I see. Well then, I really must be going now," I declared, and with that, I left my parents-in-law's house. After leaving my parents-in-law's house, I returned to my parents' house and threw myself into my work. I requested to switch to full-time hours and took the test to become a full-time employee. Thankfully, I was successful in securing a full-time job. Now I could take the kids with me, and my mother-in-law must have been exhausted by then. Sure enough, about 3 months after I left the house, my mother-in-law contacted me. "Hey, Maria, help me out," she pleaded. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I have to take my grandson, Josh, to and from his soccer team games, and I even have to help out at a training camp during the summer vacation. On top of that, I'm asked to make his lunchbox early in the morning for the morning practice, and I have to wash his dirty uniforms every day. My granddaughter, Amy, also goes to cram school every day, so I have to drive her back and forth. And on top of all that, I have to do the housework all by myself. Ken says he's tired from work and doesn't do anything to help me." "Well, if you're just complaining, I'm hanging up now," I retorted. "Wait, I'm calling you because I want you to help me, Maria," she pleaded desperately. "Excuse me, I'm already divorced, so it doesn't concern me," I replied firmly. "Don't say that, please," she begged. "No, I won't go back," I stated firmly before ending the call, "but I understand that you're in a situation that you cannot handle by yourself. I cannot entrust my precious children to you." "I will take the children," my mother-in-law declared. "What? But they want to stay here," I protested. "That's because they wanted you to understand how hard I was working," she explained. "What?" I exclaimed, taken aback. Yes, in fact, when I decided to get divorced, the first thing I did was to talk to the children. They said they would follow me right away. Amy, my daughter, said, "But this means that grandmother and the others are just kicking you out, right, Mom?" Then my son said, "I don't like that. We know how hard you work, Mom." So the children said that they would stay home first and let their grandmother know what their mother had gone through. My mother-in-law continued. I was so happy that they were on my side. I made up my mind that I would make enough money so I could come to bring them home. "Well then," I said, understanding the situation. "Yes, everything was according to our plan. I'm not a full-time employee, and I'll take the kids," she concluded. "Oh no," I muttered, realizing the gravity of the situation. I then hired a lawyer and demanded that custody be transferred. The children wanted to live with me, so custody was easily transferred. When I reported the affair to the company, His boss was amazed to hear it, and my husband was transferred to a department where he would not be able to advance in his career. Because of this, he could no longer pay the mortgage on the house he currently lives in. My mother-in-law has been ordered to work as well. My ex-mother-in-law is furious that her son is telling her what to do. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law are blaming each other. They'll probably have to leave the house this way. Well, it's none of my business anymore. Meanwhile, I rented an apartment and moved in with my children. They are growing up to be wonderful children. My daughter cooks, and my son helps me with laundry and cleaning. I wanted to be able to support them to do whatever they want to do in the future, so I will continue to work hard and earn money.
Hello everyone, my name is Lisa and I recently turned 17. This is the story of how my evil dad, Aaron, and my stepmother, Kelly, almost ruined my life. But my grandpa, Jeremy, stood by me and helped me find happiness again. These events happened over several years, but things came to a head recently. I'm still recovering from the abuse I faced from my stepmother, Kelly. However, I'm doing much better now and wanted to share my story. When my mom was alive, life was pretty normal. She was the sweetest and most caring person you could ever meet. She and my dad were high school sweethearts and married young. They had me in their 20s, and we were a happy family until she passed away from cancer when I was 12. I watched her die before my very eyes, and I couldn't help her. For the longest time, I blamed myself for not being able to save her. My dad never helped me with the grief. In fact, he didn't grieve at all. I found out he was already cheating on my mom with Kelly before she died. After my mom passed away, my dad married Kelly within 6 months. Kelly hated me with a passion. She verbally abused me and was mean to me all the time. She often said, "You should have died with your mother, Lisa. God knows why I had the misfortune to be stuck with you. You're just a spoiled brat, and I hope I can get rid of you soon." "How can you say that to me, Kelly? I have a right to be here. This is my dad's place. He will never kick me out," I would respond. "You can be very stupid sometimes, Lisa. I can control your dad very well. One word from me and you'll be out," she would retort. I thought my dad would never listen to her, but I was wrong. One day, I came home from school to find my dad waiting with my bags packed. "Dad, why are my bags packed? Are we going somewhere?" I asked. "Yes, I'm taking you to your grandpa's house. You can't live with us anymore," he replied. "Why, Dad? What did I do? Why are you doing this?" "Kelly doesn't want you to stay. You've been bothering her, and she hates children anyway. I need to keep her happy, so you need to leave." I kept begging and pleading with my dad not to kick me out, but he never listened. Kelly stood at the door, smirking and occasionally laughing at me. My dad took me to Grandpa Jeremy's house and dropped me off. I was close to my grandpa, so living with him wasn't too bad, but I wanted and needed my dad. I couldn't lose both my parents within a year. Grandpa took me in and let me stay with him. He had many fights with my dad because he couldn't accept my dad abandoning me. Eventually, my dad stopped visiting entirely. I went to his house to beg him to take me back. "Dad, please don't abandon me. I cannot live without you. I need you," I pleaded. "My wife needs me more than you do. We're very happy without you now. I cannot ruin my life with you. I want to forget I had a life without Kelly," he said. "Lisa, you shouldn't pressure your father into keeping in touch. Can't you understand he has a new family now? He doesn't want you. You should leave, Lisa. You're not welcome here anymore," Kelly added. I cried and cried, but Dad was firm. He wouldn't take me back. This went on for years. Grandpa even took him to court for child support, but Dad still didn't relent. After a few years, Dad terminated his parental rights. He came to Grandpa's house and said, "Lisa, I'm going to terminate my rights to you. From now on, your grandpa is your legal guardian. I hope you will stop bothering us now." "Dad, please don't do this. How can you abandon me like this?" I pleaded. "Stop complaining, Lisa. Grandpa is rich, and he will give you a good life. I can't have my money going towards you. Kelly needs me more." "My decision is final," Dad replied coldly. Grandpa was furious. "You are a horrible father, Aaron. I can't believe you abandoned your girl. Don't worry, I will allow you to terminate your rights. She deserves someone who loves her, not a father who dances at his wife's commands." When I understood that my dad didn't want me, I finally gave up. I was much happier with Grandpa anyway. I soon realized that my dad didn't love me, so I stopped trying and swore to stay away. I didn't want someone who didn't want me, but I remembered what he and Kelly did to me. I was never going to forgive them. After my dad terminated his rights, I stopped contacting them. Grandpa put me in therapy so I could cope with my issues. Slowly, I was recovering, but I always held resentment. I knew I wanted revenge. The perfect chance came when Kelly showed up one day. She came to Grandpa's house when he wasn't supposed to be home. She walked straight up to my room and said, "Hey, Lisa. I came to drop off some of your things. They were in the attic. Now that you are not Aaron's child anymore, I don't want to keep any memories of you. Thanks for bringing them to me, Kelly. I hope you and Dad have a good life now. You finally have what you always wished for." "I won't bother you anymore," I replied. "Oh, I'm pretty happy already, Lisa. I also hope you forget your inheritance. I don't want you to have any expectations. Aaron won't give you anything, and I won't let him give you anything either," Kelly sneered. "What inheritance are you talking about, Kelly? I'm very confused." "Dad doesn't have anything of significance," I said. "Well, your dad doesn't have anything, but your grandpa does. He'll be giving Aaron all his assets when he passes. It won't be long now. You know your grandpa Jeremy is old. Once he dies, you will be evicted from this house as well," Kelly declared smugly. "And who the hell told you that, Kelly?" I asked. "Your dad, of course. He is the one and only heir of Jeremy's assets. You're just a girl, so you won't be getting anything. Besides, I doubt you will even be of age when Jeremy dies. We might let you stay here till you are 18, but after that, you will be kicked out," she spat. I heard her words and simply laughed. Her expectations from Grandpa were hilarious. She had no idea that Grandpa Jeremy hated her. Just because he was civil to her didn't mean he approved of her schemes. I knew that if Grandpa heard Kelly's words, he would be enraged, so I had planned to get my revenge on Kelly and Dad. Grandpa was quite present in the house and had been listening to our conversation. When Kelly finally stopped talking about her dream inheritance, he stepped into the room. "What is going on over here, Kelly? I think I told you not to bother my granddaughter in my house," Grandpa said sternly. "She was telling me how I am a spoiled child and should be punished for it. She was also telling me how I shouldn't expect any inheritance and that she would kick me out of this house once it's theirs," I explained. Grandpa glared at Kelly. "I have also warned you not to talk crap to Lisa. And why on earth do you think you will get the house, Kelly? Who gave you the impression that I will leave you anything? Maybe you won't give me anything, but you will give your assets to Aaron, right?" "He is your one and only son," Kelly replied, clearly confused. Grandpa Jeremy laughed at that very comment. Even he could see how clueless Kelly was. Both Grandpa and I started laughing hysterically. Kelly looked annoyed and confused. "Why are you two laughing at me? I didn't say anything wrong. Aaron is Jeremy's son and should get everything, including this house." Grandpa sighed. "You have some wild expectations, Kelly. I knew you married my son for his money. I also know Aaron tricked you into thinking he will ultimately own all of my assets. He wasn't wrong then, but he is now." "What do you mean? Nothing has changed. He will still get all your assets as his inheritance," Kelly insisted. "Here's some news for you, Kelly. Aaron won't be getting any of my assets. He has shown exactly how much of a worthless idiot he is. I won't leave him anything of value. I have someone else in mind for that." "No, that can't be true. You are bluffing. There is no way you will give your inheritance to someone else. You will give your assets to your own blood," Kelly said, growing more agitated. "I do have several options, Kelly, and I have already decided who will get all of my assets, so it's time for you to stop dreaming and start working, because once I am gone, you will be the one who becomes homeless. You can't do that to us. Nothing is set in stone. Just wait until Aaron hears about this. This is not the end of our discussion," Kelly fumed as she stormed out of Grandpa's house. Grandpa sighed and looked at me. We both knew that another confrontation was inevitable. Kelly would tell Dad about our conversation, and both of them would come back to demand their share of the inheritance. Grandpa Jeremy was prepared. He wasn't anxious about the confrontation. Instead, he looked serious and ready. I was just waiting for my revenge. As we predicted, Kelly and Dad showed up at the house in the evening. Dad had to leave work early and drive to Grandpa's house, clearly showing how important the inheritance was to them. Kelly smirked at me and patted Dad on the back. Grandpa Jeremy just silently waited for them to speak. Dad, looking furious, began. What the hell am I hearing, Dad? You told Kelly that you won't leave me anything. That's right, you won't be getting anything of value. In fact, I doubt it will even qualify as an inheritance. You can't do that to me. I am your son, your one and only heir. I deserve all your assets. How can you say you won't leave me anything? I won't leave you anything because you have turned out to be a vile and selfish person. My only solace is that I got to see your true nature before planning my will, Grandpa replied. How can you talk to your son like that, Jeremy? You are a father. Have you ever considered your son's feelings? Kelly interjected. Has Aaron ever considered Lisa's feelings? Why should I show fatherly love to someone who doesn't even look after his own daughter? That is a separate issue, Dad. It has nothing to do with my inheritance. I don't even understand why Lisa is here in this discussion. She does not need to be here. Grandpa told me to be here, Dad. I have no interest in inheritance discussions. I have no expectations from anyone about anything. Lisa has every reason to be here, Aaron. She might not be your daughter anymore, but she is still my granddaughter. Lisa is here because she is the one who will inherit all my assets. Everyone was stunned by Grandpa's words. I was shocked but stayed silent. However, Dad and Kelly blew up at Grandpa. You can't be serious, Jeremy. Lisa is just a child, and she is a girl. She has no right to inherit all your assets. Your son should get everything, Kelly insisted. Dad, how can you do this to me? What has Lisa done that I haven't? You are choosing Lisa over your son, Dad shouted. Yes, Aaron, I'm choosing Lisa over my son, just like you chose a gold digger over your daughter. Look at the way you mention Lisa. Have you forgotten that she is your blood? I chose Kelly because I love her. Lisa is only a part of my past. I don't even want to think of her as my daughter. You have no right to choose her over me. Hell, I don't even consider her my daughter anymore, Dad replied coldly. That's exactly why you won't get anything, Aaron. It shames me to think that I raised such an entitled and selfish man like you. I'm not even dead, and your wife is already talking about kicking your daughter out of the house. You should be ashamed of yourself. You have some nerve coming here and demanding any inheritance. You can give Lisa everything, but I won't let it happen. I will get a lawyer, Dad threatened. Grandpa Jeremy looked even more resolute. He immediately took out some documents and showed them to Dad and Kelly. I have prepared everything, Aaron. All my assets will go to Lisa. You will only get a small amount of money, so you can't contest the will. There is no use trying. What is this, Dad? You already made a will. You have to be kidding me. You can't do this. What about our house? Will you give that to Lisa too? Dad was desperate. Yes, I will. It's my property, and I will decide who gets it. Since I'm feeling generous today, I'll give you a condition. There is only one way I will leave you the house you stay in now. What do I have to do? Tell me now. I'll do anything, Dad pleaded. If Lisa forgives you for your actions, I might leave you something. But first, you and Kelly have to apologize to her and beg for her forgiveness. You can't be serious. We're not doing that to Aaron. I'm not apologizing or begging, Kelly protested. Lisa, do something. Kelly looked panicked, while my dad stayed silent. It was clear they were struggling to apologize to me. I had enough. I never expected or needed their apology. For a very long time, I knew my relationship with them was over. I had no interest in rekindling anything or forgiving anyone. Finally, I spoke. Grandpa, there's no need to ask them to apologize. I know they are having trouble doing it. Frankly, I don't want their apology. I will never forgive them. So there is no use. Okay then. If Lisa doesn't want to forgive you, there is no other way. Looks like my will won't be changing after all, Grandpa said firmly. No, wait. We want to apologize to Lisa. Lisa, please forgive us. We shouldn't have treated you like that. I just wanted to leave my past behind, so I didn't want to take care of you, Dad pleaded. Don't even try, Dad. I know Kelly made you leave me. I did nothing to deserve this treatment. You were supposed to be my parents. I was supposed to feel loved by you. You are a poor excuse for a father. Don't say that, Lisa. Look, I'm trying to be a better person here. You are being unreasonable. Even Kelly would apologize to you, right, Kelly? Dad looked desperately at Kelly. Yes, sorry, Lisa. Let's just try this again. Who knows, we can even be best friends, Kelly said, trying to sound sincere. Don't make me laugh, Kelly. You hated me and wanted me out all these years. You and Dad have treated me like crap. You two abandoned me and left me here. I replied, my voice filled with years of pent-up frustration and hurt. I'm alive because of Grandpa. You're apologizing because you need Grandpa's assets. I will never forget your abuse, and I will never forgive you. After saying my part, I burst into tears and went to my room. I just couldn't take it anymore. I felt sorry for myself because of everything that I had to go through. I had no feelings left for my dad and Kelly. As far as I was concerned, they were dead to me. From my room, I could hear my grandpa berating them. He was so agitated that his shouting could be heard all over the house. Dad and Kelly were pretty silent. When Grandpa kicked out my dad and Kelly, the house became peaceful again. Grandpa found me in my room and held me as long as I cried. He even ordered my favorite food and made sure I had dinner. Meanwhile, Dad and Kelly kept blowing up my phone. They were calling me names for influencing my grandpa and berating me for not forgiving them. Grandpa saw everything and was even more pissed. As the days passed, Grandpa took some drastic steps. He transferred all his property to my name and appointed my favorite aunt as my legal guardian in case he passed before I turned 18. Hopefully that wouldn't be too soon. Grandpa also took another drastic step. He served Dad and Kelly eviction notices. Since Dad and Kelly were living in a house that he owned, he was able to evict them. After getting their notice, Dad and Kelly kept blowing up my and Grandpa's phone. They even showed up at the house and begged us to talk. Please don't kick us out, Dad. Where will we go? You know I don't have a very good job, and Kelly doesn't work either. We will become homeless. You should have thought about that before neglecting your daughter. We take care of our family, Aaron, and those who don't have a place in my house. Besides, I'm all set to transfer the house to Lisa, so it's up to her now. Lisa, please don't do this to us. Talk to your grandpa and tell him to reconsider. You don't want to see your father homeless, do you? Dad pleaded. You can't just kick out your father, Lisa. How can you be so cruel? You are depriving him of your love and support, Kelly added. Yes, I am, just like Dad, you kicked me out of your home. I'm going to be just as cruel to you as you were to me. Look, we know we messed up, but this can be solved. I didn't even want to kick you out, it's just that Kelly didn't want a teenager in the house. Why don't you come live with us? That way, we can be a family again, and families don't kick each other out. I don't consider either of you to be my family. You've already terminated your rights as a parent, Dad. You left me to Grandpa because you wanted to concentrate on your new family. Kelly became your priority over me. You did everything Kelly wanted. This is on you and Kelly for being such an evil stepmother. Don't ever contact me again. Only Grandpa is my family. Grandpa then promptly kicked them out again. Since Dad had already terminated his rights to me, he had no legal right to take me home. I guess they forgot that part. Anyway, I knew what my dad and Kelly were like. I had no delusions about their fake love or care for me, so I asked them never to contact me again. Grandpa also supported the decision and told me to stay away. Months passed, and Grandpa said Dad and Kelly were kicked out as usual. I recently turned 17 and celebrated the milestone with my grandfather. We also celebrated his 70th birthday with a grand party. Dad and Kelly were, of course, not invited. Dad still reaches out from time to time while Kelly has been blocked by me. Dad tells me that his marriage is coming to an end because they constantly fight. He also keeps apologizing to me and asking for a second chance. Apparently, he's financially struggling and Kelly's tantrums are mentally affecting him. I simply told him to get therapy and hung up. A few days ago, Dad said that he is divorcing Kelly. Since he doesn't own anything and has very little income, Kelly won't be getting anything substantial out of him. They are starting to get separated, and Kelly throws tantrums about getting a job. Dad will be paying alimony, but still, Kelly will have to work to live by herself. Meanwhile, I'm doing great and looking forward to my graduation and adulthood next year.